I don't think they'll have Cooper Kupp. I don't know.
That's insane.
I've seen them linked to Cooper Kupp on articles more than Miles Garrett.
And they're in the odds. They're high up for Kupp. They're like the second leading favorite in the betting odds.
It really just doesn't make any sense.
And that's just whoever's deciding to set the betting odds, put them number 2, and I'll pile that dude on top with Michael Fabiano and all these others that are national media writing about. Oh, the Bills need a receiver. Do people know there's different receiver positions? I know some, Matt Harmon knows, right? There are those that know, Ben Solak, there are those that study the league that know the difference. But, how many people in media, or how many people that cover football just don't even know the difference between an outside and an inside wide receiver? Because I feel like we're seeing a few of those.
Yeah, well,
Kupp makes no sense for the Bills.
I think he makes no sense for the Bills. I saw one potential landing spot for Kupp, which I thought did make sense, and that's Cincinnati. They're going to lose Higgins and Chase on the outside, and
sure.
Cooper Kupp could eat, and that works. That's Zach Taylor, who comes from the Sean McVay tree.
Yep.
So Cincinnati might make some sense there, and of course they had Tyler Boyd forever.
I like that one.
And Jermaine Burton, by the way, who's the rookie in Cincinnati, he's not even going to be on the team next year.
Yeah,
it's gone really bad.
I think that's why he went in the 3rd round, wasn't it? It's because he's kind of a head case.
Yes, tons of talent and a head case.
Yeah, anyone connecting Kupp and the Bills,
I don't get it. It doesn't make sense.
The reason why is, if you've watched his career and you look at the numbers, where he lines up, where he's productive from, he is productive from the slot. And he's amazing at it. He has been incredible at it. But that is primarily where he is at his best. So if you are to get him on the Buffalo Bills,
he's running screens for you. If I see Kupp in this offense, he's running screens.
Right. One of two things is really happening, though. One, he's playing mostly out of position, playing on the outside, winning against press coverage on the boundary, or he is playing in the slot, and you're now taking Khalil Shakir off the field.
Yeah.
And I might want to argue at this point Khalil Shakir is a better football player than Cooper Kupp. It at least would be close, I think.
Maybe.
Kupp isn't the same player he once was.
No, and one thing that happened to Kupp, of course, is he got the number one target in that offense is Puka Nacua. That's who the Bills really need, is Puka Nacua.
Yeah, his body's broken down a lot, too. He's had a ton of injuries.
Kupp.
So that's why it doesn't make any sense. This is why, a little bit of, the way that Ladd McConkey last year was described in the draft, I don't ever focus on him and Keon Coleman. The Bills drafted Keon Coleman. Wish I had Ladd McConkey, who had 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns and was definitely had a better rookie season than Keon Coleman, right? Not even close. But why haven't you heard that mentioned one time about, I wish the Bills had Ladd McConkey? Because Ladd McConkey plays the exact same role that Khalil Shakir does.
He plays it really well.
You already have it.
McConkey does get used down the field a bit more. But yeah.
A little bit more,
sure.
Right. So that to me, just more perspective on that would be nice. Of not every receiver is the right type of receiver for what your team needs. And this would be one of those where, okay, the Bills need a wide receiver. Oh, Cooper Kupp's a wide receiver. No, it's not that simple.
Just redundant. It strikes me as redundant. I mean, if he's on the team for cheap, I'm not saying he's going to make you worse, but redundancy. They need something else. They need a different kind of guy.
I mean, if another type of receiver of his caliber came available that was is DK Metcalf going to jar loose? Adam Schefter tweeted at the deadline that he's not getting moved today, and everyone's he was, okay. What? Why'd you do that?
Well,
was he available? Did we not know about it? There's some Metcalf, there's been Metcalf smoke in the past.
Metcalf is one I would think about a lot. The thing about Metcalf, though, is do I want Metcalf and Keon Coleman? Maybe the style of Joe Brady's offense calls for that. He's obviously very fast. He is not limited to one route. Metcalf, there's one of the knocks on him coming into the league was, is he just a guy that runs past people? And the answer to that is not really. He does a bunch. He would give them over-the-top pop. He would give them contested catch. He would give them
separation when he's going over the top, too.
Yes.
Running behind guys rather than, it has to be a jump ball.
Yep. So, it's...
He needs to be paid, though.
Right.
28 years old. He's got 1 year left, so you're going to have to pay him big time.
Is he... He's not an elite do-everything receiver. Is he elite at what he does? in that job, because the Garrett conversation ties into all these people that like the idea of Cooper Kupp are remembering him at one point being one of like the top 3 most productive receivers in football. And this offseason is not going to be about get 10 kids in the draft and sign some cagey free agents.
Yep.
What the Bills have to be doing is making a run for it. I like to occasionally make fantasy football comparisons, as ridiculous as they sound. But if you're a team that made the playoffs last year, and the reason you lost is because the guy on the other side had Jamar Chase, like, you got to go trade some of your good players and get a guy that can drop 50 in the championship. That's kind of what the Bills need is, hey, we've got, a bunch of pretty nice players, but would you rather
in fantasy, you have a lot of guys that score 12, right, and you could use a guy that could potentially score 40.
Right, because if he scores 40 and then you're filling 2 roster spots. Anyway, the Bills have a lot of good players, but the offseason is going to be about the blue chipper. The coach said it. The GM has referenced these guys, whether it's Chris Jones or Jamar Chase. Like, they got to find a blue chipper.
And that's where Garrett almost feels like he has to be the number one idea, or he has to be somebody they're willing to pay the price on, because even like I just mentioned Metcalf. Metcalf is not reportedly available right now, but maybe he does. He's in a contract year. There's been stuff in the past. He's very good. He's very good. If he became available today, like that would be. I like the idea that he's a wide receiver. He is not as good as what he does as Myles Garrett is. He is not the top 5 wide receiver in the league. He's very good, but is he even blue chipper? Like, he's great at what he does, but at his position, like, he's not someone that's out here rattling off first team All-Pros. So, and again, that's part of the point though to me is you could have some really good players become available this offseason. What are the odds any of them are as good as what they do is what Myles Garrett is? Like, I think almost impossible. Who would it have to be? I mean, a receiver would have to be a Justin Jefferson or Malik Neighbors or like that. That's
honestly,
it's not happening.
It would have been last year. It would have been Ayuk. Would have been the caliber. I mean, he's the number 1 separator in football. Ayuk when he's healthy. Of course, now he's coming off.
Even that one though, I would be like, I don't think he's the Myles Garrett of wide receivers.
Yep.
Is there a safety? Like, who would that be?
Javon Holland is the best safety out there.
Okay.
Free agent.
And he's good. He's very good. Corner, like Sauce Gardner, like that. Those are the comparisons at other positions to what Myles Garrett is at his. So that's why, like, if you want a blue chipper, this is the dude. I would be floored if another player shook loose and became available this offseason that is as good as his position as Garrett is at his. I just don't think it's possible.
No, you want someone as good at their position as Garrett. You want Josh Allen.
Right, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, right. 803-0550 on Garrett, on all of it. I don't know if he'll.
What is the receiver move?
If he'll get moved, the receiver with a big receiver market.
What's their move going to end up being? Receiver? They're going to add one.
Let's explore this because the last couple years have been defined by receivers that were about to get paid getting moved. Right. Look at all the receivers that got moved. It's Devontae Adams. It's Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
And on. We've got big name receivers where a team didn't want to pay and they moved on. And every time a receiver gets a contract, it's, wow, is the receiver market finally going to blow up? Is there a guy that is in line for a big extension and his team doesn't want to give it to him? This is where you say Metcalf might fit that bill. I can't imagine the Bills will spend – I shouldn't say I can't imagine. Are they going to spend big at receiver? Aren't they going to pour almost everything they've got into their defense?
I think so.
Almost everything. And there's one specific role on the outside. It is not easy to get a true number 1, like a Diggs level, does mostly everything receiver. I think they're going to want a speed specialist. Do they want Marvin Mims? Is that really what they want? Somebody that can win with speed over the top?
I think that's what they need. I think that's the thing they don't have, right? And Mims is actually maybe good for this because what's most likely, if I agree that I think most of their assets go to the defense, the money, the high-end picks. So what is that receiver move? Is that it could, by the way, just be they bring Cooper back, like on a 1-year deal. Isn't it probably most likely that it's like a third-round guy?
Yes.
is the guy. Like, they're going to spend like a third-round pick on a receiver, and we're going to be like intrigued. Like, maybe that could be something. Their third round, Terry McLaurin was a third-round pick. It can happen where the guy is great. But it's going to be Mims. It'll be Marvin Mims. You know, like, oh, fun player. Let's see what he's got. More than it's going to be anybody that's like really established. Isn't that probably what's going to end up happening?
Yes, I think so.
The guys that are going into, like, you tell, all of these are too big of names, I think, right? Like, the names of receivers, now that they're available in free agency, the guys that are going into contract years. So the ones you might think, hey, if their team doesn't want to pay them, then maybe they're available for trade. Metcalf, who we just mentioned, Terry McLaurin, although they're already talking like they want to do that now. They're not letting him go. Courtland Sutton is going into a contract year. Tyler Lockett is going into a contract year. Garrett Wilson, although he'll be an RFA. George Pickens, he's going into a contract year. I don't know if they're going to want to pay him, but do you want that?
I don't want George Pickens.
Romeo Doubs is going into a contract year. Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, Christian Kirk.
Friends with Josh.
That's your guy.
I
right?
actually texted you once. We should put
You did.
Christian Kirk on the bet board. Christian Kirk. But isn't he...
Contract year. They just paid Gabe Davis.
Right.
And they have Brian Thomas Jr. Actually, wait a minute. That's going to happen, isn't it?
Christian Kirk?
They drafted Brian Thomas Jr. He was incredible, and they just paid Gabe Davis. They're not paying Christian Kirk, are they?
I think he's on the move. Coming off an injury.
This is why I didn't want to bet you on this. And he's really good friends with Josh Allen.
Yeah. I mean, they play golf together.
Golf trips. I've seen wedding pictures of them together,
yes,
like
Christian
people's
Kirk,
weddings.
Christian Kirk put the odds up on the board. Christian Kirk does not.
That's their receiver move
No.
of the offseason?
No. Because
that'd be too big? What? He could play. Is he outside?
He doesn't beat man coverage. No. He's more. Yeah, he just doesn't beat man or beat press. And they need somebody that does that.
Okay. But he's friends with Josh.
He's friends with Josh.
That'll get
you a long way.
That'll get you a long way.
That'll get you, a backup quarterback job. That'll get you,
Jacoby Myers, by the way, is another one on here. Chris Olave, Jameson Williams. Those are RFA guys. These are the other names.
Olave and the injuries, like that's a gamble. He's great.
And then Chase.
Like Chris Olave.
But I mean, Jamar Chase is not.
Chris Olave of the Saints is the probably best receiver that does not produce results because of his quarterback and his injuries. But Olave's a separator. That's a guy that if he ever got out of there and got with a pair to the premium quarterback, he would. The Diggs thing would happen where, hey, this guy looks like he's pretty good. Can he pop off? He might have to get out of New Orleans. The Saints don't yet have a coach.
Well, it's going to
be Kellen Moore,
right?
Yeah,
unless Kellen Moore like backstabs them at the end here and I don't want to stay here.
Yeah,
I want to stay here.